Turn to an expert in this field. We welcome in Mitch Epner. He's a member of the firm Rothenberg, Lippman, Rich, PC. He's also a former assistant U.S. attorney in New Jersey. So, Mitchell, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is a very interesting topic.
Well, I have a really, just a basic non-attorney question here. How does the Attorney General in Washington, D.C. have standing to sue here for a team that plays its games in Maryland and has its headquarters in Virginia? You know, like, I'm a Commanders fan. I live in Chicago. I'm kind of wondering if the Chicago DA should be opening up a fraud investigation into the Commanders to represent me. That's the way it seems here.
So you've put your finger on one of the problems with this lawsuit by the DC AG. The theory is that they sell a lot of merchandise in DC, but they don't have a store there. And they sell a lot of tickets to people who live in DC. It's not the strongest theory in the world, and it's just one of the problems with the legal technicalities of this lawsuit. The underlying facts are horrific. And I think not enough bad things can happen to Dan Snyder. And for many years, going back to the Ray Rice incident, I've thought that Roger Goodell was doing very bad things. So I really don't bleed for either of them, but I think this may be a poorly taken lawsuit.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is if you are saying that people that bought tickets to Commanders games have been defrauded here because of an investigation into sexual harassment and workplace issues, it's hard to believe that somebody that bought a ticket to go watch football is harmed by a sham of an investigation.
And so the theory of this lawsuit, and I think it's a very problematic theory, is that there are people who were willing to buy Washington Commanders tickets or Washington Commanders merch who would not have been willing to do so if they had known that instead of running a fair investigation into what a horrible human being Dan Snyder is, they were running a biased investigation. That is the group of people that this fraud lawsuit is supposed to be protecting.
Okay, so I think we have established here that it's kind of on shaky ground. So I wonder, is this Attorney General grandstanding? He is out of office in January. He said he hopes that the person that comes after him will continue it, but it's kind of tough to see. I mean, you and I are sitting here going, I don't know about the merits of this one. His successor may be like, I don't want to deal with this.
So the outgoing Attorney General, Carr, he got headlines, and the incoming AG, he's the first elected AG in DC history, Brian Schwab, he's gotten a headache because he now has to either pursue a lawsuit that I think has great difficulties just with the technicalities, or be the guy who will be pilloried for having dropped a lawsuit saying that Dan Snyder is a bad guy, because Dan Snyder is a bad guy. That should not be up for debate.
I don't think it is. I think you've been very clear about that. I do want to ask, though, there do seem to be, as we have discussed at length here, some major issues with the Commanders, with Dan Snyder, with Roger Goodell, and with the NFL. Are there other lawsuits that should come that might have a better chance of succeeding or even moving forward? Because this one might not even move forward. Aren't there other things that they can be sued for that might have a greater impact?
So the Washington Commanders are not incorporated in D.C., but the place where they are incorporated, that Attorney General, much like New York Attorney General Tish James, could bring an investigation into corporate malfeasance. That may or may not go forward. Former U.S. Attorney for Southern District of New York, Mary Jo White, has been tapped to run an investigation of the investigation, which had been run by Beth Wilkinson, who is a very high-powered D.C. attorney. And the Commanders and the NFL basically had her do what seems to be a very thorough job, and then said, you know what, we're not going to publicly release the outcome of your investigation. I think that may come out. And the biggest thing is Dan Snyder's trying to sell the team. My guess, and this is, I'm not predicting the future, this is just pattern recognition. Whoever buys this team from Dan Snyder is going to, number one, change the name because the Washington Commies is just a horrible idea. And number two, release everything horrible about Dan Snyder that are in the corporate records because they will want to make a clean break of things.
Well, that would be interesting. I wonder how pending lawsuits affect the sale, though. Is it, maybe this isn't your area of expertise, but will they drive a sale price down? Or will they stop the approval of a sale of this size? It could be $5 billion, and if there are multiple pending lawsuits and federal investigations, it might stop a sale from happening. It might actually keep Dan Snyder in power for longer, unless I'm wrong about that. You tell me. You're the legal expert.
I've been publicly commenting on these sorts of distressed sales since the Los Angeles Clippers were being sold. And while Dan Snyder is a horrible human being, it's hard to be worse than the guy who owned the Los Angeles Clippers for decades. And he was able to sell the team for a then record $2 billion, even as he was literally shouting the N-word on national TV. So the NFL has every incentive to let this sale happen as quickly as possible. Every legal officer in any state has every incentive to get Dan Snyder out of there. I think the team will be sold very quickly.
And so, like you said, it'll be a clean sweep if somebody comes in, and they will possibly change the name, but they will certainly be done with a lot of these things just if Snyder goes. Is that kind of your opinion?
Yeah, there's an old Dr. Seuss book, Martin K. Moody, Please Go Home. That can be retitled Dan Snyder, Please Go Home.
That is Mitchell Epner. He's a member of the firm Rottenberg, Lippman, Rich, PC, and a former federal prosecutor. We thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next.